What is going on, everyone? My name is Jamon McKinney, but of course, you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. Welcome, everyone, to the Juice Alert episode number 67, 65, 66. I can't even quite remember off the top of my head which episode it is, but I am happy to say that I am back and more than likely here to stay on the YouTube algorithm, the podcast algorithm for the time being and for a very, very long time. I've talked about in the past how I personally believe that I will one day create a different show, a different style type of show that will be even bigger and better than what we have right here today in front of you. But I'm just going to live day by day. Who knows? This show could go on for the next 35 years and everyone could clock in and say, I remember that guy when he used to be in his, college apartment room in Toledo, Ohio, recording hot takes about Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, things like that. But enough talking. I've talked enough. Like I said, I'm Jamon McKinney. Welcome into my show. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. You can find the Juice Alert on YouTube and podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that great stuff. As you guys know, I took a long break away from producing shows here in the sports media world as far as, putting things out on my personal platform and for as far as my personal brand is concerned. But I am aiming to be back, and I'll kind of get into why I took such a long break. I really took two big long breaks that were over about a year and a half between the two of them. But I don't want to talk about why I took those breaks. I want to get into some very interesting topics, kind of get the, tires rolling a little bit more, just simply because it's been a while since I've been on here talking to you guys. So I appreciate all of you that have came back. And for all the new members out there, be sure to tell your friends and family about this show because you will not regret it. Like I said, today we are going to talk about Nikola Jokić and the Denver Nuggets winning their first ever NBA championship. We're going to talk about Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Nick Saban, Aaron Rodgers. A lot of good fun topics to talk about. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter show today, but without further ado, let's just get right to it. Actually, before I do get right to it, I apologize, but I have to say, if you guys want to follow me on social media, please do so. You can follow me on Instagram. I got a new Instagram. It is GHIMAN_McKinney9. GHIMAN_MCKINNEY9. That is on Instagram. And on Instagram as well, you can find the Juice Alert account for this specific show right here and this personal brand at the Juice Alert. And on TikTok, you can find me as well at GHIMANMCKINNEY. Literally my first and last name, Jamon McKinney. I'm also on Twitter as well. Just type in Jamon McKinney and I'm pretty sure you will find me, as well as the Juice Alert. Just type in the Juice Alert and you'll find those two things. But without further ado, let's jump right into things, guys. So the Denver Nuggets are NBA champions for the first time in their franchise's history. I was not completely surprised that the Denver Nuggets won the NBA championship just because Nikola Jokić is an awesome player. I felt that he was overly criticized by winning back-to-back MVPs of recent. He didn't win the MVP this year. That obviously went to Joel Embiid. Many people thought that he should have been a three-time MVP. That's a debate for another day. But personally, like I said, Nikola Jokić is amazing. They were the number one seed. And you look at Mike Malone. Mike Malone is an elite head coach. And whenever you have a star player like Nikola Jokić and a great head coach in Mike Malone, you're always going to have a puncher's chance. And not to mention Jamal Murray, absolutely a stud. He proved himself this past postseason. Really didn't necessarily prove himself, but everyone kind of forgot about Jamal Murray, just because a couple of years ago he got injured, in the playoffs and kind of disappeared, had to get right, but he's back and he was awesome in the playoffs. Aaron Gordon was a great key role player. Bruce Brown came in and stepped up. KCP did his thing. The one thing about the Denver Nuggets, roster is that they have a lot of guys that can do a little bit of everything. No one is just a specialist in one thing, other than maybe Michael Porter Jr., and he's still a good young player that is learning, okay? But I am here to say right now, Nikola Jokić is the best player in basketball. Nikola Jokić is the best player in the world. Right now, Nikola Jokić is a certified all-time great. He's a top 25 player ever, guys. Listen, we can talk about the David Robinsons of the world. We can talk about the Patrick Ewings of the world, even the Charles Barkleys of the world. I got a lot of respect for those guys, but respectfully, Nikola Jokić just surpassed those guys. Those guys, he's bumped them over. And we are talking about a 6'11" big man that is super powerful, and he's essentially just not fazed by elite defenses. It is so hard to game plan for Nikola Jokić because he's a great scorer, but when Nikola Jokić is not scoring the basketball, he's facilitating the offense for his entire team. I mean, he's basically like a point center. He's basically the point guard that just happens to play center for the Denver Nuggets and be super tall, super big, super efficient. You know, he's a guy that's going to give you 25 to 30 points a game each night while arguably being the most efficient player on the floor on offense and the best passer in the entire NBA. Yes, I said it. Nikola Jokić is the best passer in basketball right now. I mean, the precision, the creativity, you know, it's literally a chef's kiss. His ability to facilitate and distribute the basketball, it is generational stuff, guys. And anytime Nikola Jokić has the ball in his hands, I feel like something is going to go right. You know, he's one of those rare players where anytime he touches the basketball, I feel like he's going to make the right play. He's going to make the right decision. He's either going to score or he's going to create offense and make the right play for his teammates, you know. And everyone talks about his defense. Nikola Jokić has improved tremendously as a defender over the past couple of years. And Denver, during the postseason, they were a very good defensive unit. So and they just won the championship. So is Nikola Jokic's defense really that much of a liability when his team was able to play elite defense when it matters in the playoffs? You know, everyone said, oh, can't win a championship with Nikola Jokić because he's a liability defensively. That's no longer the case, people. Nikola Jokić, very much like Stephen Curry, has improved his defense tremendously, where both Jokić and Stephen Curry both kind of came into the league as unique players that weren't very good defenders, but they learned, they grew, they bought in on that defensive end, and they got better. And Jokić has a very good high basketball IQ. So just his awareness alone really helps him on the defensive end, you know, and he's a big body. Like, it's kind of hard to get around him, you know, if he really decides to, you know, get in front of you and things like that. But yeah, I mean, Nikola Jokić, two-time MVP in the regular season, could have won 3 straight MVPs. I will not be shocked if he wins another MVP or 2 by the time his career is over. He's an NBA Finals MVP, nearly averaged a 30-point triple-double versus the Miami Heat. I gotta say, he's the best basketball player in the world. He literally has nothing else to prove at this point. And you could say, oh, what about the other guys, Jamon? What about Giannis? I never felt Giannis Antetokounmpo was the best player in basketball, even after the great NBA Finals run that he had. There is weaknesses in Giannis's game. And let's be real, people. Let's have a real conversation. The Milwaukee Bucks had a winning record this season without Giannis Antetokounmpo. And we saw Giannis in the playoffs versus Jimmy Butler in the Miami Heat. He was running from the free throw line. I get it that Giannis has won a championship, but we've seen Giannis, you know, be slowed down versus Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors. We've seen him get slowed down by a great Miami Heat defense that can kind of build a wall around him. It's much easier to game plan for Giannis compared to a guy like Nikola Jokić. That's my personal opinion, and I believe it's the right opinion. You could talk about, oh, what about Stephen Curry? Stephen Curry is just a little bit too small for me. You know, Stephen Curry, generational player. If you want to say he's a top 10 player of all time, I might disagree with you at this very moment, but that's very irrelevant just because I think Stephen Curry, probably when it's all said and done, will be an undisputed top 10 player ever. But we've seen Stephen Curry versus the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals, you know, back in 2016 when he was up 3-1, kind of choked that lead away and not play so good. We saw long, lengthy defenders bother Stephen Curry in that series. We saw it versus Toronto when he lost in the finals. We saw that versus the LA Lakers this past year, where Stephen Curry, you know, in some of those biggest moments, He just wasn't quite the clutch player that we expected him to be. So I think right now it's Jokic's league, like I said. And what about Kevin Durant? Look, the later years of Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City and in Golden State, and the first couple of years in Brooklyn, I think you could make a case for Kevin Durant being the best player in the world. But Kevin Durant is soon to be 35 years old, people. Okay? I think that Kevin Durant is starting to exit his prime. We saw him last year versus the Boston Celtics look absolutely miserable at times. He got his points, he did his thing at times, but that was not the same Kevin Durant that we're used to seeing. I think Kevin Durant, I think that there's an argument that he might have already peaked. I think that the best of Kevin Durant, I won't say that it's over for KD or they can't win another championship. But right now, compared to Jokic, Jokic is smack dead in the middle of his prime, and Kevin Durant is an old, aging player that is still great, still an elite scorer, still arguably a top 5 player in the league. But compared to Jokic, I'd rather have Jokic if I'm starting my team right now, probably, okay? You look at Joel Embiid, I'm sorry, people, but Joel Embiid has not even gotten to a conference finals, okay? He hasn't even gotten to a conference finals. I don't understand the argument for Joel Embiid being one of the 3 best players in the league right now. I never really understood the argument for Joel Embiid over Nikola Jokic in the first place because I felt that Jokic was overall a better basketball player once he really started to hit his prime. When we look at LeBron James at one point in these playoffs missed 20 straight three-pointers, people. LeBron James is still great, but he's old. He's going to be 40 years old in a couple seasons if he still continues to play. LeBron, his time has passed. I just feel like that Jokic outplayed him vastly in that series, and, LeBron, it's not his time anymore right now. So, look, that's how I feel about Nikola Jokic. Right now, I believe you can make the argument he's the best player in basketball. I could see him winning another championship or 2 when it's all said and done. Maybe another MVP or 2, but regardless, he's a certified all-time great, a top 25 player in the league. I'm sorry, not in the league, of all time at worst. I think it's only going to go up for Nikola Jokic from here. So I want to talk about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is one of the most controversial players in NBA history. He makes himself accessible to the media, kind of unlike any other basketball player we've ever seen, because Kevin Durant literally responds to people on Twitter, on Instagram. There's been multiple times where he's called out the likes of Skip Bayless, Chris Broussard, even Stephen A. Smith at one point kind of, got into things with his mother. It wasn't personal, but, they invited her on the show First Take, and, Stephen A. questioned Kevin Durant going to Golden State, and then Miss Durant came at Stephen A. Smith and basically said, no one questioned you when you wanted to go to ESPN to elevate your brand. So when it comes to Kevin Durant, there's a lot of crazy conversations, but Kevin Durant is a darn great basketball player. And in year number 15, we just saw Kevin Durant nearly average 30 points on 55, 40, and 90 splits. 55% from the field, 40% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line. That's the first time that has ever been done in the history of basketball. 55, 40, and 90. And there's a lot of conversations about Kevin Durant. Did he do enough in Oklahoma City? The way he left that city, a lot of people have beef with him. Are Kevin Durant's titles legit in Golden State? Did he tear down the Brooklyn Nets, which I think is a very delusional argument to make? Can he win a title with the Phoenix Suns? That is a real question that will be answered eventually very soon. But a lot of Kevin Durant debates are silly and unfair, not only to Kevin Durant, the basketball player, but just Kevin Durant, the human being in general. I want to talk some basketball in regards to Kevin Durant. Have we seen the best of Kevin Durant up to this point? We're in the year 2023, and 2024 will be here pretty soon before we know it. It's been 5 years since Kevin Durant won an NBA championship. It's been 8 years since Kevin Durant has won a regular season MVP award. Kevin Durant is approaching his age 35 season. And along the lines of his career, which has been great, he suffered a broken foot, a torn Achilles, and multiple ankle and lower body injuries. The last time Kevin Durant played over 60 games was in 2018. He's been injury prone the latter part of his career up to this point. And the last 2 postseasons versus Boston, I got to tell you, I didn't recognize Kevin Durant. They got after Kevin Durant. Now, were they going to win a championship that year? Probably not. The Brooklyn Nets did not have the coaching. They did not have the roster to do so. But I expected Kevin Durant to put his imprint on that series much more better than he did. And I got to be honest, in that 4-game sweep, I was not all that impressed with Kevin Durant. And we even saw this past year versus the Denver Nuggets. He got his numbers. He looked good. He played pretty well, but there were some inefficient games where he was missing even open looks by his standards. And we just got to really ask the question, has Kevin Durant peaked? His game has changed over the past couple of years. Ever since his Achilles tear, I don't think he's been quite as explosive. He does not get to the basket as much. He relies so heavily much on pull-up jump shots, and that's fine because he's Kevin Durant, but at times that type of style of play can fizzle out in the playoffs. I don't see Kevin Durant getting to the basket at will like he used to in Oklahoma City, where he would just get to the rim with those long 7-foot strides and just take over. There was usually no answer for Kevin Durant defensively back in the day. Now, I'm not saying there's necessarily an answer for him defensively now, but I got to tell you, it's a fair basketball question to ask because we're looking at a guy like Kevin Durant who in Oklahoma City averaged 32 points per game in his MVP season, got to multiple conference finals, got to an NBA finals, and put up a valiant effort versus LeBron James. We saw Kevin Durant in Golden State absolutely make that team a dynasty and a super team. 35 points per game on 70% true shooting versus a LeBron James-led Cleveland Cavaliers team in 2017. That's unheard of. And now Kevin Durant has Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. Once again, another new head coach. And again, I respect Frank Vogel, but at some point, this cycle has to be getting old for Kevin Durant. So to answer the question, have we seen the best of Kevin Durant? I'll simply answer by saying I believe we are past Kevin Durant's physical prime as far as his peak goes, okay? I don't think Kevin Durant is quite as explosive of an athlete as he used to be just because he has sustained so many injuries. He has gotten older. His game has evolved. However, I will say this. I believe Kevin Durant has at least one more all-time great finishing act left in him. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, despite the fact that Kevin Durant has had to change his game, kind of fine-tune some things just because of the injuries he sustained and the age he is as a player, like he's 35 years old. He's no longer 27, okay, you get what I'm saying? But Kevin Durant has a chance to, even as a lesser version of himself, still help lead a team to an NBA championship. I still believe we could see an all-time kick-butt playoff run from Kevin Durant with the Phoenix Suns because I still believe Kevin Durant is an all-time great player. He's an amazing scorer. He's playing great defense, maybe even more consistently being better on the defensive end than I've ever seen in his career up to this point. He's still a very good playmaker, very solid rebounder. He knows how to play team basketball. He's been there and done that. And he's got a pretty decent supporting cast with Devin Booker. Bradley Beal's coming in now. We'll see how the rest of the roster rounds out. But I would not count out Kevin Durant. I still think Kevin Durant is an amazing player. And even Kevin Durant being a lesser version of himself, because he has such a great basketball IQ, because he's such a talented scorer, I could see Kevin Durant winning another championship or making another deep playoff run before he officially hangs up those sneakers. So that's how I feel about Kevin Durant. There's a very good chance he could help lead the Phoenix Suns to their first ever NBA championship, but only time will tell. So I now want to transition to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, very much like Kevin Durant, as I mentioned earlier, he's a very polarizing player. A lot of people love Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people hate Aaron Rodgers. Very few people are willing to have honest conversations about Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion. But listen, 15 years being the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, Green Bay kicked Aaron Rodgers out the door. They traded him away to the New York Jets. And I think this is a great situation for Aaron Rodgers and another opportunity for him to add to his legacy. We all like great stories like, Tim Duncan. being drafted by the Spurs and staying with that franchise for his entire career. Kobe Bryant, 20 years with the Lakers, never switched teams. I feel like the Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers storyline, that peaked around chapter 10. And we got to chapter 11, chapter 12, chapter 13, 14. We were still entertained. Aaron Rodgers was still winning MVPs even after he won a Super Bowl. But it was kind of the same thing, Aaron Rodgers is this big star in Green Bay, but they seem to always somehow, some way flame out and disappoint in the playoffs. We can blame Aaron Rodgers if we want, but there was also, to me, a bad philosophy by the Green Bay Packers of, as far as the way they built their team and things of that nature. But let's just be real, people. Aaron Rodgers was always a weird fit for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is this big star. It seems like Aaron Rodgers is more so meant for Hollywood or Miami. Imagine Aaron Rodgers as the Miami Dolphins quarterback. That could be Dan Marino, but even bigger and better. Just because Aaron Rodgers is a much more charismatic personality than Dan Marino, in my opinion. He's a more polarizing player. I think that right now, up to this point, he's a much more interesting topic, a bigger draw, more controversial. In Green Bay, Wisconsin, Aaron Rodgers became the city. In New York with the Jets, Aaron Rodgers is simply just becoming a part of the city of New York. He's not the city. And that's key because in Green Bay, everyone bowed down to Aaron Rodgers, and rightfully so, because I think you can make the argument that right now Aaron Rodgers is one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. You can debate with me if you want, but that's my opinion, okay? But in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, he could do no wrong. He's devoid of criticism. And as good as Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur were at times, Mike McCarthy found a way to somehow win a Super Bowl, which I really don't know how, but he did. And Matt LaFleur, he had his moments. But to me, those guys at the heart were yes men to Aaron Rodgers. I said it. I think they were yes men at heart, okay? Because fans in the media overall also became yes men for Aaron Rodgers. The ones that were critical of Aaron Rodgers, they got crushed by everyone. Everyone came at them like beehives. And look, I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong, but if Aaron Rodgers is not performing in New York, guess what? The fans in New York or the people in that city, they have the New York Giants that they can go see that play right in the same arena. The New York Yankees exist. The New York Mets exist. The Knicks exist. The Nets exist. Even the Rangers. That's just sports entertainment in New York. And then we didn't even talk about, the other attractions in the city. Aaron Rodgers knows this, however, okay? He knows that his reputation is on the line with the New York Jets. And he's going to be under the biggest microscope of his entire career, Aaron Rodgers. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to thrive under the bright lights of New York City. And I do believe that somewhat of that accountability, that will actually help Aaron Rodgers because, look, we could talk about Bill Belichick's rigid ways all we want. You cannot convince me otherwise that Bill Belichick holding Tom Brady accountable and not above anyone on the team, that made Tom Brady a better football player. And I think that Aaron Rodgers being pressured by the New York media, not having a bunch of yes men bowing down to his feet, I do believe that is going to bring another side out of Aaron Rodgers because, Aaron, you got nowhere else to hide now, buddy. It's no more, these small columnists in Green Bay, Wisconsin. They're going to type whatever they want. They're going to please Aaron Rodgers. No more of that. If you don't perform in New York City, fair or unfair, you're going to get crushed. And I believe Aaron Rodgers knows his reputation is on the line. And guess what? Aaron Rodgers, he's got a squad behind him, in my opinion. Garrett Wilson, I believe he's going to be a star wide receiver. The running backs are above average. The defense is full of young stars led by Sauce Gardner, who to me could very well solidify himself as the best cornerback in the entire NFL. And the New York Jets at one point last season were winning games with arguably the worst quarterback room maybe in the NFL. Have you seen Zach Wilson? Okay. Up to this point, unless Zach Wilson can turn it around or something, he's been proven to be nothing but arguably just a bad starting quarterback. And deep down, Aaron Rodgers wants to be better than what Brett Favre was to the New York Jets. He wants to surpass what Brett Favre did with the New York Jets. Because if you look at Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, it's about even. Brett Favre, he has a little bit more of the counting stats as far as yards goes. Aaron Rodgers hasn't beaten touchdowns. I feel like Brett Favre was a little bit more beloved by the city in Green Bay. But regardless, both of them accomplished a ton in Green Bay, even though I would give the slight edge to Aaron Rodgers as far as what he accomplished. But in New York City, all Aaron Rodgers has to do is win a playoff game, and he's already been proven to be better than what Brett Favre was to the New York Jets, because that experiment didn't go so well for Brett Favre. But I do think expectations are much more higher than just winning one playoff game. I do believe Aaron Rodgers definitely has a shot to win a Super Bowl with the New York Jets, and I think he's going to be held accountable. I think that he's going to, come in there willing to work with these new guys. And I think that he's looking to prove the Green Bay Packers wrong, because the Green Bay Packers, they bailed on Aaron Rodgers. And I think Aaron Rodgers definitely took that as disrespect, and rightfully so. And I believe Aaron Rodgers is going to thrive under the bright lights of the Big Apple in New York City with the Jets. So, as we all know, Tom Brady retired several months ago here in 2023. It's 2023, and for the first time since 2000, first time since 2000, Tom Brady will not be playing in the National Football League. Tom Brady's retired, 7 Super Bowl wins, 1 Super Bowl win in Tampa Bay, 6 in New England with the Patriots. He holds all the crazy records as far as touchdowns, passing yards, all the longevity stats mostly belong to Tom Brady. And even at 45 years old, Tom Brady was still a really solid quarterback. And I think that that's one thing that Tom Brady can hang his hat on. Dan Marino, man, it was ugly the final year in Miami with him, okay? Peyton Manning, even though he won a Super Bowl, it was kind of choppy. It was kind of ugly. Like, Peyton Manning was not a great quarterback. He was mostly carried by his defense, his final year in Denver. With Tom Brady, I feel like he walked out on his own 2 feet. Obviously, the playoff game versus Dallas wasn't great, but for the most part, Tom Brady clocked in a very solid season, at least compared to every 45-year-old athlete ever, because most 45-year-old athletes are retired at that point. Tom Brady was still slinging that rock around, okay? Now, a lot of people hate Tom Brady because they think he's kind of a jerk. Some people point him out to be a bad sport, which I don't necessarily disagree with to a degree. I've never been around Tom Brady, never met the guy, but I didn't like the fact that he didn't shake Nick Foles' hand after Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles beat him in the Super Bowl. And then all of a sudden, when Tom Brady's winning Super Bowls, he is going to shake everyone's hand because, oh, it's all good, I won. But no, Tom, keep that same energy. Let's be a fair sport. Michael Jordan congratulated the Detroit Pistons every time they beat him. He shook their hand, was a good sport. That wasn't Tom Brady. That's not who he was, unfortunately. But I can appreciate Tom Brady. You want to know why? Because Tom Brady was never handed anything in his football life. He was doubted from day one. Didn't start initially at his high school. Had to battle it out with Drew Henson at Michigan for the starting job. Drew Henson was rotating snaps with Tom Brady at one point at Michigan. Tom Brady was the 199th pick of his draft class in 2000. And if you look at that NFL Combine and his body at the time, it was kind of rocky and rough for Tom Brady. But you can see over time, Tom Brady improved his body. He got stronger. He got faster. He got better. Okay, it wasn't great early, but he improved, And Tom Brady had to earn everything he got. And once Tom Brady got his opportunity, he was ready. And he never looked back. And we can say Tom Brady was never as talented as a Ben Roethlisberger or a Cam Newton. Two guys that were 6'5", had elite arms, absolute cannons, and are built like tanks, and they can move a lot faster than Tom Brady. But Tom Brady became better than all those guys, and maybe arguably the greatest football player to ever live because he outsmarted the defense. He came prepared. His preparation, top notch, top notch. The way he prepared. And, I find this a little bit odd based on some NFL fans that I have observed. Just a little bit odd. Flatly only because I understand the Tom Brady hate. Because, like I said earlier, he can at times come across a little bit as a jerk, a little cocky. The Patriots have been accused of cheating in the past. So I understand why some people despise Tom Brady and the Patriots. And for one, a lot of people hate on greatness in general. So that's one thing. But Michael Jordan is absolutely beloved among universally everyone, except a couple of weird people here and there. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jordan is loved and worshipped and appreciated. But Michael Jordan also punched teammates. Okay, he punched teammates. He wasn't always the best guy to get along with people. There were some people that hated Michael Jordan that were his teammates. They loved the success that he brought them, but man, he made practice at times brutal for those guys, and rightfully so, because Michael Jordan once said, I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do. So I understand. I'm not necessarily criticizing Jordan. I'm just trying to look at things from a logical perspective and say, okay, Tom Brady and Michael Jordan both won a bunch of championships. Both were great for a long time. Meanwhile, one guy is absolutely loved beyond and worshipped time and time again, and the other guy is wildly hated by so many people. And I just think that discrepancy is a tad bit weird. I get it. Michael Jordan is more marketable. He's more cool. He has the nice shoes. And one thing about Michael Jordan was he was always a great sport. When the Detroit Pistons beat him multiple times in the playoffs, Michael Jordan would shake their hand, be a good sport, and say, hey, we'll get him next time. The next year, we'll get him. Tom Brady wasn't like that versus the Philadelphia Eagles when he wouldn't shake Nick Foles' hand after the Eagles beat him. I get that, but I just kind of find that interesting, But let's just kind of move on here, okay? One thing people can also admit about Tom Brady, whether they like it or not, if they're being realistic, Tom Brady absolutely cared about his craft. He was going to do whatever it takes to win. This is a guy that spends millions of dollars on his body and his diet, and it shows on the football field because even at age 45, Tom Brady could hold his own versus any quarterback in the NFL, except maybe the top guys like Patrick Mahomes, for example, who's at the peak of his prime, is like age 27 and Tom Brady's 45. Maybe not in that case, but Tom Brady could hold his own versus anyone in the National Football League at age 45. And I think his diet and his preparation reflected upon him on the football field because, like I said, even at such an old age, Tom Brady was great. Look at Russell Wilson. We're talking about a guy that has won a Super Bowl, a guy that spends millions of dollars on his body as well. He's breaking down at age 33, 34. We'll see if Russell Wilson can bounce back, but I don't think Russell Wilson is going to last anywhere close to age 45 in the NFL. But that just shows you how special Tom Brady is, not only as an athlete, but just as a quarterback and football player in general. And from age 23 to 45, Tom Brady realized because I'm the greatest to ever do it, arguably, I'm obligated to play the game of football as long as humanly possible, whether it be for my organization or for the fans who love and would die for me, okay? Whatever it takes, Tom Brady was going to do to win. No teammate ever really openly badmouthed him. There's probably a teammate out there that probably despises him quietly. But listen, you can make the best apple pie in the world. There's somebody out there in this world that just doesn't like apple pie. That's how the world works. But I'm very happy that I was able to see Tom Brady perform live in a football game. It was in 2019, his final year with the New England Patriots. They came to Cincinnati to play the Cincinnati Bengals. The New England Patriots, led by Tom Brady, dominated that game. It was so exciting for me to watch as a fan. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm not even necessarily a Tom Brady fanboy, but I just can appreciate greatness and great football. And for me, that was a pretty cool moment for me. And congratulations to Tom Brady for an amazing career. His longevity is unmatched. His clutch performances in the biggest games and the biggest Super Bowls are unmatched. Okay. His ability to be an accurate thrower of the football. To me, he's arguably one of the most underrated talents at the quarterback position we've ever seen. I think his arm strength was super underrated. His ability to process defenses is second to none. And he's the ultimate clutch performer. Like I said, I think Tom Brady, you could definitely make the argument that he's the greatest football player of all time. And that's saying a lot because from an athletic perspective, Tom Brady probably can't even outrun Josh Rosen. But that's what makes Tom Brady so great. He realizes his limitations. He maximized his strengths, and it led to him being maybe the clutchest performer in sports history and the greatest of all time in his field. Congratulations, Tom Brady. Salute to you. And retirement. So I want to move on to my next topic right here. Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are the two head coaches that I have admired the most from afar as far as two all-time greats, arguably in my generation at least. But what is the difference between Bill Belichick and Nick Saban? Is there really a difference? I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer. But one thing I appreciate about Nick Saban compared to Bill Belichick is that Nick Saban has proven to be able to put his ego aside in order to win championships much, much better compared to Bill Belichick has. Nick Saban has always been willing to adapt and evolve. Bill Belichick, right now today, he flatly refuses to change and adapt his philosophy. And it has cost him as far as wins and losses goes. Meanwhile, Nick Saban, he's been rewarded for being able to adapt. That is one area Nick Saban has Bill Belichick beaten in. Think about this, people. In 2017, when Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide lost in the national championship game to Deshaun Watson and an all-time great Clemson Tigers team, a lot of people were starting to write the Alabama Crimson Tide off. They said, oh, it's over. The Alabama dynasty is done. Nick Saban can't win anymore. You can't win anymore running the ball and playing great defense and just special teams. You got to be able to have a great quarterback, Nick Saban. You're going to get exposed. And you know what Nick Saban said? He threw in the towel. He said, yeah, you guys are right. I need to get more dynamic on offense. I need to change my philosophy. Maybe I do need to go out and get a Tua Tagovailoa to be my quarterback, a Mac Jones to be my quarterback, a Bryce Young to be my quarterback. All three guys that were first-round picks. I maybe need to start spreading the ball out and throwing the ball more and being dynamic. Ever since that national championship loss to Deshaun Watson and the Clemson Tigers, Nick Saban has gone on to win not one, but two national championships during a 6-year period, and he has extended his dynasty run. Bill Belichick, I got to be honest with you, before I get into the coaching side of things, Bill Belichick, to me from afar, has hired yes men on his staff. These guys, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, even Stephen Belichick, who is his son. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying these guys don't have talent and that they shouldn't have jobs in the NFL, but realistically, who is challenging Bill Belichick in New England? No one's doing it. You want to know why no one's doing it? Because if someone with any balls and guts was challenging Bill Belichick, they would tell him straight to his face, buddy, you've had a great run, but you need to adapt your system. You need to change your offense. We need more dynamic players, specifically at the wide receiver position. And flatly, Bill Belichick, the way you're going about things, it is outdated. It worked a long time ago. It does not work in 2023 and beyond. It just doesn't. For years, people have been saying The New England Patriots need to draft more better wide receivers. They need to go out and get a star wide receiver. Invest in the wide receiver position. Bill Belichick hasn't done that. He hasn't changed his offense. In fact, the biggest and most mind-boggling change Bill Belichick has made is he hired a defensive coordinator to run his offense. So you mean to tell me you got a hot dog specialist to go out there and make the best ice cream in the world? That's what you're going to do, Bill Belichick? That's essentially what you did, because a defensive coordinator does not specialize in cooking up Kyle Shanahan type offensive plays. It just doesn't work that way. I'm not saying the hot dog specialist can't eventually make you some good ice cream, but compared to other guys that specialize in, ice cream, hot dogs, offense, whatever the conversation is, it just doesn't work. Matt Patricia and these defensive coordinators, they specialize in defense. Offense is not their strength. No wonder you're going to struggle, okay? And when you don't have Tom Brady anymore, who at one point became the system in New England, Tom Brady did, you are going to struggle. Right now, today, no one is arguing that the New England Patriots are a top 10 team in the NFL. No one with common sense, no one who evaluates these rosters with any sense of detail is saying, yep, the Patriots have one of the 10 best teams in football. They're not saying these things because they're outdated. They're not even close to being a Super Bowl contender right now. And I got news for you. Just in their own division, right now today, the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets, they've got better players, they've got a better philosophy, and they're not outdated. The Patriots are outdated. If Bill Belichick wants to continue to try to compete for Super Bowls, he will need to put his ego aside and he will need to adapt. So far, post Tom Brady, Bill Belichick has refused to adapt his philosophy. Meanwhile, teams like the Rams, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, led by Tom Brady at one point, they're winning Super Bowls because they're not outdated, they're not afraid to adjust, and they're hip to what works in the NFL. The New England Patriots, not so much, and that's why they've struggled so much post Tom Brady, in my opinion. And until Bill Belichick gets rid of all these yes men who just keep bigging him up, it's going to continue, and that's the unfortunate reality. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign out right now. So, yeah, that was very awkward. But again, like I said, the show, we're going to end things a little bit earlier today than I usually do. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate all of you for coming back and watching. Those of you that are new, thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on social media, tell your friends about this show if you are hip. And I'm Ghost. Have a God bless day, ladies and gentlemen.